Hello, Naps. Welcome back to my channel and a happy 2021. As you can see, we're starting off this year a little differently. Oh my gosh, I got a full face of makeup on. What? Because this is not technically the look we're doing today. Although, if you want to know how this stuff was done, I will link all the products down below. Now that it's 2021, I figured what better to talk about today than horoscopes, because we might want some guidance in the new year, and I was curious about the psychology behind horoscopes. Just so that you know, I do enjoy a good horoscope read myself, but I'm going to do my best to play devil's advocate and really get down to some of the psychological effects that horoscopes may have, or the things that may be associated with horoscopes. So, let's get started. Okay, first things first, we're going to be using scar wax today, or in my case, Mayron's Sin Wax, and we're going to be sculpting little things to go on our face because I'm going to be doing a fun little serpent over here. We're going to start off with a sketch. Just so that I know where things are going, I'm also going to do some paint, so I don't want it to get all messed up and look funky and stuff. I kind of want to know where I'm going ahead of time. I'm going to be using just like a little detail brush, and I think I'm going to dip into the Ben Nye the Cream paints. This is from the Monster Wheel, and there's nothing, you don't need to activate this with anything, so it's really nice. You don't have to go back and forth between water and paint. You can just kind of load up your brush and then sketch. So I'm going to go ahead and start sketching. I know my head is going to go here-ish, and the head is going to be made out of the Sin Wax, so I just need the location. It don't have to look good. So for those of you that don't know, astrology is more or less a personality chart based off of where the stars were aligned when you were born. Kind of neat, simple, or at least it seems simple. And with that, it's more than just personality stuff. When you think of horoscopes, it's mostly about like telling the future, right? You want that future to be accurate. You expect it to be accurate, or at least you hope it's accurate usually, unless of course it's a negative thing, in which case none of us want that to be accurate. Cream is a little hard to work with sometimes. Drop it down below if you have a preference between cream paints, water paints, alcohol paints, or something else like grease paint. I would love to know. Set a general sketch, and then here I am like trying to get the whole shape in. So because horoscopes are supposed to be based off your astrology sign, and your astrology sign is all based off of the personality that you supposedly have, I thought it'd be interesting to know if there's like any effects associated with that, and I did not come back disappointed from my Wikipedia hunt and my Google hunt. I discovered there's a thing called the Barnum effect, or the Forer, oh, too many R's, Forer effect, that is all about an individual getting a personality read, and this can happen with anything. This isn't just like limited to astrology. Anytime something is supposedly specialized to you, quizzes or personal information, we look for ways to make that information accurate, even if that information is really actually general. A lot of people may have the trait of being a little clingy in relationships. Is that just exclusive to Geminis or other people? I don't think so. I think that there's a lot of people who can identify with that, just depending on what relationship they're in the given moment. Now again, that being said, there's nothing wrong if you heavily associate or believe in these charts and signs and stuff. I myself am a believer that horoscopes are really good as kind of a guidance for the day. But we're playing devil's advocate here, so it's necessary to look through all the options. So I'm also going to go through and I'm going to take, this is Skin Illustrator's Zero Color Loose Setting Powder. I explained some of those things in my like basic SFX videos as well. So go check that out if you haven't. That was part of my Halloween series this year. Fun fact, the Barnum and Forer effect, this was found to be true regardless of the culture questioned about it. So both Eastern and Western cultures came back with high accuracy ratings for those reports, even though the information given was generalized. So I thought that was kind of neat. So we're gonna step into these fun little like sin wax pieces. Just so you know, here I've got a tail, I've got like, it's supposed to be a bottom jaw, and I've got like a top of the head, and it's very basic right now. For that, I've got my big tub here. This is the Mayron brand Thin Wax, and you just scoop a chunk of it out, and if you can kind of like pry it out, it's sometimes nicer too. This stuff gets really sticky, so what you can do to reduce the stickiness is if you have a little bit of spirit gum remover, you can put some on your fingers, and it'll help prevent the wax from sticking to your fingers while you're trying to work with it. You can also put it on your tools to try and make it a little easier to model, but be aware if you're using an adhesive underneath, try not to get it under there because it's a remover of adhesive, so it's gonna try and come up. So I'm gonna get my chunk of stuff out, because the last thing that I need for this, and like I said, these are basic elements, is I am going to need a little bit of a raised piece. I have to be careful because I'm doing it on my neck, and if you watched my Halloween series, you know that highly bendable areas, so all this here, all this movement, it's a lot harder to get scar wax to look good and stay there longer if it's in a highly bendable area. We're gonna do our best to mitigate that, trying to be careful of placement. So I think this one is gonna go right here because my collarbone doesn't have too much movement in itself. There's not really a good bendy spot in there. And so I'm just gonna try and match it up. I made a little rectangle. It's gonna be the back of the snake because I want it to be just a little 3D, and I don't have a life cast or anything to do that kind of molding. So I got my basic pieces here. Getting our Pros Aid cream out because I did not buy the non-cream version this time. I tried the cream version. It builds easier, it does take longer to dry. And we all know thicker layers take forever to dry. So be patient with it. With scar wax, you always want to kind of start with a little bit of a base. So I'm taking my spatula, I'm getting a little bit of my Pros Aid cream on there. And I am going to start with where I'm placing my head neck thing. Hopefully that works out okay. And I'm gonna pull up my bottom jaw. My goal is to make a snake with its mouth open like that. So I'm gonna go through and try and get some of the details before it goes on my face. It's hard enough doing other things backwards. They don't need to be trying to sculpt stuff backwards too. Snakes are crazy, you know? They got really big mouths. Something cool about snakes is they can unhinge their jaw. They can swallow things whole. It's pretty neat. I'm sorry if you have a fear of snakes. This might not be the video for you. Probably should have said that earlier. I'm also not super skilled at all this stuff, so it might not be too realistic. You might be okay. And if you find that the sin wax is getting too sticky, pause for a minute, put it down, put it in a cooler spot. It's temperature dependent, so it will be easier to work with. I'm gonna get a little bit of powder on my fingers too, see if that helps. This is me experimenting. This is not what I suggest. One big question that I had with horoscope readings was knowing what your horoscope is, because oftentimes it's advice on how to go about your day, or it's a prediction on things that might happen in your day. Does reading that then change how the rest of your day goes? If you didn't read that, would those things occur? Would those things happen? Let's talk about some of those elements that might be in that. If you haven't heard of law of manifestation or law of attraction before, we're going to be talking about that now. And pretty much any self-help book that you read, there is something about if you want something to happen, you got to make it happen. You got to believe it's going to happen. You got to think positively about it. You got to act on it. And part of that is the law of manifestation, the law of attracting, where what you think then becomes reality. And that being said, Psychology Today had some interesting feedback on that. By the way, all articles and stuff that I find will be linked down in the description. Go ahead and check that out. Okay, a little bit of setting powder is actually preventing the stick a little bit. That's kind of nice. I think that looks pretty good. What do you guys think? And I was able to get it a little bit smoother by putting some of the powder on my fingers so that way I could give it more smoothing details and it didn't get as sticky. So Psychology Today actually found that the law of attraction, law of manifestation is kind of a real thing. For any skeptics out there, it is actually scientifically proven. Thinking in one direction can lead you closer to that direction. But the key for that is that you have to then actually take action to do it. And then it becomes more of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, which we've talked about before on that video there. Go ahead and give that a watch if you'd like. So with that, what you do, how you think about things, then can push you closer to it. Having goals along the way helps you find markers to kind of stay on the right track and meet your end goal. Sometimes, without even realizing it, we get really sidetracked down another path, and then we're not even looking at our goal anymore because we're busy following this other path. Now, that's not true with everything, obviously. There are just some things in life that happen that we have no control over. Ooh, I let that dry too long. That's difficult. But for the things that you want to have happen in your life, for the things that you want to occur one way or the other, it can be nice to have goals and figure out how to make them happen. I'm trying to figure out if I can get this to stick. Oh, I'm gonna have to hold this, aren't I? Yeah, I'm gonna have to hold it. By the way, I'm doing all of this first so that I can paint it after, but that might backfire on me, so we'll see. Can I use this brush? Sort of. Okay, we're just gonna hold it there. So with horoscopes, this can also be true. So if you have a horoscope you want to happen or a horoscope you don't want to happen, and you have a firm belief that the horoscope is a measure of what will happen, then you are more likely to will it into existence. If you have a horoscope, for example, that says you're going to meet the love of your life and then you don't leave your house, the likelihood of that actually happening is slim because, again, it's not just what you think, but it's also what you do. Okay. I took a little food break, and obviously that happened from that, but it's okay. Or anybody who wants to do this look at home, it might also be wise to do some tinfoil or something underneath instead of 100% scar wax, because scar wax is really heavy. And I kind of forgot about that when I did this. So I have like this point here and this point here supporting this head, but it is still slowly trying to pull off my face. Good things to learn. Also probably could have sculpted something and then like covered it in latex or something a little bit lighter as well. Could have also worked. Now you know, learn from my mistakes. I did put a little bit of fixative A on this top part here because I'm worried about it moving. Again, these two pieces are fine. This is not a highly movable area. This one, however, gets all of my mouth movement, and if it were higher up on my cheek, it'd be a little bit more supported, but this is the softer part of my cheek, so it's less supported. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna go in and take a fluffier brush. We'll see how this works out. And I'm gonna try and do like a base white. Oh, for anybody who doesn't know what fixative A is, fixative A is something you can use on scar wax to try and prevent it from moving in weird ways. Usually scar wax is used to make scars, make cuts, appear real, and fixative A kind of keeps it in its place for as long as you're using it, hopefully. That's the goal. Hopefully what I'm doing will be able to blend some of these edges out, because I did not do a good job with the edges today. But I'll go back in and I'm gonna use some other stuff in a bit. As you can see, like some of the fixative and some of the other stuff messed up the coloring right there a little. Why you start on a clean surface, that and the fact that if you don't start on a clean surface then you get all this makeup pulling off and it doesn't stick well. So another thing to be warned, be wary of. I just need you to stay on my face long enough for me to finish this video. See if I can get those nail marks out. We're gonna try and clean this up a little bit as we go. The shadows that I used on my eyes, I'm gonna try and go back in since these are cream paints and basically use that as a primer, because I realized I don't want to do all cream paints on me, and that is just how I work sometimes. Something cool that I learned about horoscopes while I was doing research for this video. By the way, I'm dipping into the NYX Perfect Filter palette and I'm using this dark green right here. I learned sort of what happens with horoscopes. People look at the way the stars are aligned for the day that they're trying to make the horoscope. And then they look at the last time the stars were aligned in that way and try and see if there are any events that happen. And I'm pretty sure it's more scientific than that. I do not write horoscopes, so I do not know. But I thought it was very fascinating. I'm gonna try and make like a garden snake, so it's probably gonna have to be a little bit brighter than this. Then we'll try and pump up the color a little bit from there. And you can see in the difference in the areas that I primed and didn't powder versus the areas that I powdered over too. So that's something kind of neat. Maybe I can re-stick up some of those areas. This is probably also a good time to mention that I'm not a professional with makeup or with psychology, so take everything I say with a grain of salt, do your research, and stay informed and stay curious. This is me attempting to do a how-to, but this is also me doing this for the first time. So you're gonna see mistakes that I make. And mistakes are okay. So what does that mean so far for our people who believe in horoscopes and believe in learning more and following through and kind of using that as a guide for what you need to do in your day? Well, it can mean that it's a good idea to watch your follow through on things. Like if you actually want something to happen, you're gonna have to take actions to make sure it happens. So if you have a really good horoscope, taking action to make sure that that horoscope actually happens is good. Fluffy brush was not the way to go. Choose your brushes wisely. But also that means like if you have a horoscope that you really don't want to happen, try and figure out ways you can counter that. Figure out if there's like some positive intention you can put into your actions to make sure that that negative outcome doesn't exist. Free will and all that. I do like how the powder is working on this though. Well, gotta be careful how I smile though. If I smile too big, the snake will fall off. So, I've got that base green. I want another green. I used this is from the NYX Ultimate Bright palette, and I'm gonna use this for my body color. And then I think I'm gonna have a third color for my like tummy color. Snakes are multifaceted, you know. I'm gonna go ahead and finish coloring this part off camera. Okay, we've got that basic thing started. Now let's go through and let's take the peachy tone from over here and get that belly going. And this is where we find out the hilarious part, that eyeshadow shade is my skin tone. So I guess we gotta go over and we gotta add some more precision depth to this. So let's go ahead, break out my watercolors now because we did creams. We used eyeshadow. Why not break out the Mayron Paradise palette? I almost forgot my poor snaky snake. He needs an inside mouth color. I'm gonna dip back into that Ultimate Bright section. I think I'm gonna go for this shade right here. I know it's really bright, so I'm hoping it doesn't look too crazy. Oh, but I think that's the perfect color that he needed. Coral is your color, sir. The snake feels like a sir. You can go ahead and name him in the comments if you like. Maybe like a good old, like Gregory. Gregory the Danger Noodle? I don't know. What do you think? Yep, open up big, Gregory. Maybe like, I don't know, Samson? And this snake does not have teeth. I think the only reason, and I don't know this for a fact, I think the only reason snakes have teeth is like if they have a venomous bite, because snakes are kind of built for like, not the ripping and the chewing so much as they're the swallowing whole kind of thing. Oh yeah, you look a little bit better now. He still needs eyes, but we'll get to that. Okay, I'm gonna dip into my Mayron Paradise palette. I'm gonna go for the dark green shade that they have in here. It's like a very dark green. Ooh, look at all that adhesive just coming up. Come on, man. You only have to last through this video. Okay, I've got Gregory or Samson or Klaus's green reaffirmed. I'm gonna go in with a little bit of dark brown and try and give it a smidge bit of an outline around some of that belly area and hope that that works at like making him a little bit more 3D and also making that eye tone not look 100% like my skin. So that's a thick line. Klaus. Let's so hard. And let's get some little black eyes in there, even though we're not done with details. So maybe shouldn't even be putting paint on that side. Oh, that adhesive did not want to work. Just ignore that. Only look at it from this angle. He's going for something. Probably going with some concealer there. Boing, Benefit Cakeless Concealer, and just trying to give myself a little touch up. Double check all of my edges, right? It's like a little cheat sheet or a cheat code. The sneaky boy needs a little bit of It was something else to get him through this, I think. I had this cool highlight in here, and that's from the Ultimate Utopia palette. It's that shade of green. I just thought Samson, Gregory, Klaus, Michael, Hale needed a little bit of glitter. Devil is in the detail, right? But let's go in with some black, or maybe adding white would make it gray instead. Okay, we're gonna... Ooh. Sometimes details are hard, man. We're gonna need a nice strong highlight at a certain point too. So that's what sells illusions, is you start adding shadow and highlight to it and then it starts popping off. By the way, in case you're wondering, why the heck am I doing a snake when I'm talking about horoscopes? Is because back in 2016, I know, such a long time ago, NASA was like, you know, it's been a really long time. I wonder if the positions of the stars have changed. And they were like, oh shoot, astrology charts are not accurate. And it's not that the stars themselves have changed. It's just that because Earth is tilted on its like polar axis, right? The north-south pole, it's tilted, it's not perfectly straight. So when it rotates and it spins, eventually you end up in a different position than you originally started in. And so over time, the positions of the stars have changed such that actually NASA was like, there should be probably another astrological sign in the zodiac. And there was like a sign that had been labeled, but somewhere along the way people were like, we need 12 signs, they all need to be even amount of days. So Sagittarius kind of absorbed some of this sign, and let me just make sure I don't mispronounce it. Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus. Ophius? Ophiuchus. Not sure how to pronounce it. If you know Greek, let me know. How do you pronounce that? The star sign is a man holding a snake. And so I was like, oh, well, that could be kind of fun. I do a snake in my face. So there we go. So if you're getting to the end of this and you want to challenge yourself and see if maybe you are just hitting a little bit of Furor effect, then you can always go and see if maybe newer astrological sign, according to NASA, maybe if that sign is actually more accurate than what you've been using. So under that new structure, because it shifted all of them around, like even though I'm not born near Sagittarius, I'm born in August, it actually, the 2016 adjustment that NASA came out with puts me at a Leo. So that's cool. Should I be reading Leo horoscopes now? I don't know. But maybe test it out. Let me know how that works for you. You know, I kind of like that there's all this... I don't. I'm gonna pretend that I do. Adhesive stretch there. It almost makes him look like he's pulling himself away from me. Right? Right? It's fine. It works. It's fine. See if I go back in with that peachy shade from the filter palette again and see if I can reblend some of that brown so it's not quite as crazy. Harsh lines are the enemy. And maybe add some water to it, make it more pink. We'll figure it out. I was just thinking how this probably needs scaled pattern, especially on the stomach. So actually for this, and I know I'm changing up stuff again, I'm using the Anastasia Beverly Hills eyebrow pomade because I didn't want it to be too thick, but I wanted it to be present, and this shade felt right and I didn't have to mix it. Because we want to work smarter, not harder. Alright, those lines did a lot of good there, but the only thing that we have left to do is go through and add some highlight, I think. I know you're like, but Jocelyn, his face isn't perfect. He's a quirky snake, okay? We're just gonna let him live his life. So, yeah. Also, let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about and drop it down in the comments, because I think this kind of stuff is fun. I'd be down for talking about it again. Ooh, this is going gray on me. This is not supposed to be gray. It's supposed to be white. This is what I get for mixing all of my colors in my white pan because I hit pan on it. Okay, and highlight, you want it to be thin. You want it to contrast with what you're doing in your shadows because those ridges are scale marks. We're gonna try our best to go back in and add contrast right next to them to make it look a little bit less.
And I've finally done the thing that I thought that I would avoid, which is I paused while I didn't want to record, and I recorded while I didn't want to record. So unfortunately, you get voiceover Jocelyn for the tail end of this. The final look is here, luckily. You can kind of vaguely see it as we end our conversation here. But I want to know from you guys, what do you think of all the astrological information? Has this changed your opinion? Has this given you a new perspective? Has this given you the inclination to refresh some of your knowledge and maybe look some new stuff up? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed what we talked about here today. Let me know if there's anything that you want to see in particular, and I really hope that I see you here next Thursday for another video. All right, Naps, have a great day. Bye.